Hello everybody, here's a second experiment of driving with a spherical camera. If you're watching this in a browser, regular browser, you can probably just use your mouse to drag it around and have a look around the car. If you're watching this with something like the YouTube app, then you may, on a phone, you may be able to move your phone around and have a look around the car as we go. Best thing, of course, is to watch this with some sort of VR headset like Google Cardboard or maybe something fancier. Okay, short drive here. I'm just experimenting really with the best position for this camera because ideally, you may have seen an earlier video I did where I sat the camera right on the dashboard, which gives you a great view of outside, but is a slightly artificial position if you're wanting to look at me and hear what I'm saying, if I say anything worthwhile. Because when you're up on the dashboard there, you're facing backwards when you're listening to me. So I've put you in a position which is perhaps a little way forward of where a passenger would sit, but means that you can have some kind of eye contact with me if you want. You should also be able to see what's going on outside a little bit. So we are in my little village of Coton here. I am setting off a nice quiet electric car. There's a car coming down there. Over here on the right is the Plough, which is a very fine pub. I've mounted this in a slightly different way, which may or may not, the camera that is, which may or may not be more stable than the last one. It's now firmly fixed with my suction cup, but it's fixed to the sunroof, which is handy for putting you in a convenient position in the middle of the car, but it does perhaps mean it looks as if there's quite a lot of vibration there, so halfway through we might stop somewhere and try reattaching you somewhere else, like perhaps to the window. This is a busy bit of road sometimes, or at least not a busy one, but a one where you have to do a little bit of a passing job. And one of the interesting things about this, I think, as I mentioned in an earlier video, is that if you're listening to me talking while I'm driving, you can look around and you can see why I've suddenly paused. What am I concentrating on? What is it that distracts me? This could be very useful if you're trying to have something like a Skype call. We always, we all know that having phone calls in cars is dangerous. And I think a big part of that is because the person at the other end of the phone call doesn't have the kind of shared visual cues around. If I suddenly pause in the middle of a conversation when I'm on the phone, I'm gonna go for this one here, I think, then you may wonder why I've suddenly paused. You may not know that that in fact there's a little bit of difficult traffic ahead, and that's actually that's requiring my attention, and you would then, if you were sitting next to me, you then wouldn't interrupt me perhaps while I'm negotiating this difficult bit of road. Here, of course, you can. If we were having a Skype call and it was on one of these 360 cameras, you could look around and you could see, okay, Quentin is still with us, he's still driving, but I can see why he doesn't want to talk just at the moment. Oh, there's a bump. Just nip through that, I think. Slightly orange light there. So it's fairly quiet now because I'm heading into the lab a bit later than usual. I wouldn't normally drive, actually, as you'll see. It's a very short ride, so normally I would cycle, but because I wanted to try these experiments, I decided to bring the car. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's cold grey and rainy weather outside. That wouldn't affect me at all. Another challenge, of course, in filming in a car is that you have very different light levels inside and outside. Now, it's helped a bit in here by the fact I have a sunroof, but on an earlier video I did, it was bright sunlight outside, and essentially you couldn't really see very much out of the window a lot of the time. because the camera had calibrated itself to be the right kind of values for me inside the car. Maybe because of the way I started the image off and the direction the camera was facing, so it thought this was the primary view. Now, this time I started the recording using my phone, and the app for the camera that's on the phone, and on that you have a certain amount of control over exposure level. So I actually turned it down a bit, which may mean that you're seeing this with me in gloom, but it may also mean that actually it's better exposed for the outside world. We'll have a look. We're going to turn right in here. And we'll go and see if there is any space in the staff car park, something that isn't always the case here. They're doing some building work over at the back. It's been going on for some time. This is where I need to reach into my pockets and dig out my access card and see if I can get into the car park. It's of course always in the wrong pocket. But it is kind of interesting here as well, I think, that you can see what I'm going through, why it's taking me a long time to get these things out of my bag. And you can look back, you can see the barrier going up if you want to. And I think that we are going to be quite lucky if we find a space here. I'm not really anticipating one, so we may need to come out again and go round and park at the front of the building, or maybe in one of the other car parks. Yes, it looks as if we're pretty much all full up and there isn't even a space to sort of squeeze on the end somewhere. Okay, well, that's fair enough. I am rather late. And yeah, all full up. Okay, let's see if there's any space at the front. So the other thing I'm doing differently this time is that I've mounted the camera at a somewhat strange angle, because I realized that when you are filming with a spherical camera, it doesn't actually matter which way is up. So the camera has an accelerometer in it, so it knows its orientation, and the software can take that into account. Oh, I think we're not even going to be able to park here. Okay, well, this is fine. I'm going to go out to one of the further car parks, which gives me a little bit more time to talk. But also has an advantage that on Wednesdays we have, around here, we have a food park where these various food vans come, and it's a lot more interesting catering actually than the normal stuff that's on offer from the university catering, and usually much better food. So we can go out there. I realise this window's all a bit blurry. And I might be able to park in here actually. I think I'll just, well, maybe next one along I will just go down to, and then I'll probably head along to the food park, get myself some lunch, then I won't need to come out here later today. Let's see if I can get into this one, and indeed if they have any spaces. I am not practiced at these car parks, but there is one there if this will let me in. Let's have a go. And it does. This is good news. It's further from the office, but closer to lunch. I like that. Okay, I'm going to reverse into this space here. Or maybe one of these spaces, this one. And you can, if you wish, turn around and see what's out of the rearview mirror as I do this. So I think that's probably just about it. So I don't know if that was an interesting experience, not the most exciting journey, but I'm experimenting with these different viewpoints to find out where in the car it's good to position a camera. In a way that, here probably too much of your view is obstructed by this rear view mirror here. So I think perhaps a little bit further forward would be good. I think maybe it would be a little more rigid if it was attached to the windscreen as well. So perhaps we'll try that somewhere in between this and the earlier video. We'll try that later and see how well that works. Right, thank you for riding along with me.